I can remember coming here as a child and watching the Creature feature movie, and it was called The Blob. And it starred Steve McQueen in his first starring role. And the movie starts off with the Blob invading a movie theater, and the Blob comes out through the hole in the projection booth and comes down into the audience and starts eating people. And that was scary. That was real scary.
There was a movie called The Tingler. It was, you look at the movies back then, they were the most hokey movies. Basically what it was, Vincent Price was a doctor, and he had somehow removed a backbone out of some convict that had killed people, and somehow or another that backbone came to life and during the night and was going around killing people. They had apparatuses hooked up to the floor in the theater, so that when this thing was going along in this gymnasium attacking people, they'd vibrate the floors and everybody'd start screaming.
Well, what I seen was John Wayne Westerns, a good share of them. I remember seeing Elvis Presley, Jailhouse Rock there. That's probably one of the first movies I seen in there.
There were numerous bands that were in here back in the 80s before it became a church. Quiet Riot was here, I believe Blue Oyster Cult was here. I wish I had memories of those. I didn't attend them. I do remember when I was, before we bought the theater in the mid-2000s, the church that owned it would, during one of the World Cup series, I believe it was '02 or '06, they actually opened the theater, and for $1 you could come in and watch the World Cup games on the big screen, and they would sell popcorn. So I thought that was a really cool thing that they did just for a community event.
And Saturday mornings they had the cartoon for the children in the summer, and we were mobbed. It was so busy, but it was a lot of fun.
I hesitate to mention it. There was a guy in town, and he would come in to the Saturday morning matinees, the Westerns, and he actually would have cap gun pistols. And I mean, this is a man that was in his 20s and 30s. And when the big fight scene started, he would stand up and start firing these cap guns at the people on the screen, and they called him Two Gun, because that's what he did. He always had his two guns, and he'd fight right with Hopalong Cassidy and Lone Ranger.
The movies were free. That tells you how much business they did at the concession stand, because all the profit was from the concession. The movies was just to draw the kids in, and candy was where the money was made.
Good and Plenty's and Milk Duds and, you know, your typical theater snacks and candy. Remember that counter quite well. Our parents would send us to the movie while they went out on a Saturday night, and when the movie was over, they'd come pick us up. But this was a safe haven. This was a place where they didn't feel, you know, afraid of leaving us.
It was a safe place, and they would drop them off at the door, pick them up when the movie was over. They knew the times, and so there was no worry back in our day.
It was a different time back then. It was
Yes.
in the 60s, and there was no crime. There were no drugs per se, and it was a different time, and it was a good time.
In 1905, this building was originally constructed, and in 1906 it burned to the ground. And in 1907 it reopened, and it reopened because the community was willing to rally around it and support it and make sure that it happened. And so we're hoping that once again the theater can garner that kind of community will and support to making sure it's available for the next 100 years.